Yeah, well, here at Black Country Radio in Stowe, I was just about to interview Les Jones, ahead of the PCC elections. Okay, I'm joined here with Les Jones, head of the PCC elections. Hello there, how are you doing? Let's start with that.
I'm good, thanks. Quite tired because it's a big area to cover.
And can you tell us a bit about yourself and why you're running for the West Midlands Police Crime Commissioner?
Yeah, well, my name's Les Jones. I live here in Dudley Borough, in Stourbridge, in fact. I've been a councillor for the last 18 years now. I'm re-standing as a councillor as well as standing for the PCC this year, so I'm doubly busy. And I was on the old police authority many years ago, so I've got a fairly good idea of how the whole thing ticks, which is one of the reasons I was interested in getting involved.
Okay, and if you could fundamentally change anything about the West Midlands Police Force, what would it be?
Its focus on people. I think it's starting to do what a lot of public services are doing, which is consolidating to one big unit. When in actual fact, across the West Midlands, we've got so many diverse communities. And when I say communities, I'm talking about geographically different. You can't have a policing system that fits Wolverhampton, central Birmingham, and the edges of the Solihull on the rural fringes of the conurbation, and have the same policing standards. So I'd focus on making sure policing fits the area where it's being used.
Okay. A lot of young people in the West Midlands are showing concerns about the PCSO cuts. How do you plan to bridge that void?
Yeah, well, I think, obviously, like everything else with policing or any other public service, you have to look at the budget and see where the money is. But the reality is that despite all the talk of cuts, this area, West Midlands, has had a £35 million increase in its annual budget year on year, because the government actually put right something that was known as the funding formula. The funding formula meant that rural areas got a disproportionate amount of money to the urban areas. That's been corrected now, so that extra £35 million means that for all the talk of cuts, we're actually back where we started 6 years ago, no worse off.
And what in your mind is the biggest challenge for young people in the region? I'm going to start that again. What in your mind is the biggest challenges young people in the region face in regards to crime, and how do you plan to address these issues?
I think young people and the crime they face, or those that get involved in criminality, because there's two elements here. I don't think the needs of young people are that different to the needs of older people in the wish to be able to walk down the street safely and not get mugged or have your phone nicked or what many of the other things that go on these days. If you're talking about where young people are being drawn into criminality, we've got this problem at the moment that we seem to be importing this attitude from America that power makes you important. I want to start looking at that and making sure people realise that it's actually success that makes you important, not power. And sometimes the idea of carrying a knife or a gun gives you this idea of power that isn't real. And it's a bad direction of travel. And obviously a lot of young people are suffering from being drawn into that kind of culture, which I want to see changed. Best way to do that is to make sure policing is strong, fair, and on your side.
Do you believe crime prevention work is important? For example, some people do turn to crime through poverty, as you just mentioned. Do you have any ideas to help people such as these?
Yeah, I'm not sure people turn to crime through poverty, because that's actually saying to an awful lot of people, you're going to become a criminal because you're poor, and it's not true. I grew up in a fairly poor household. It was the strength of my parents' will that made sure we didn't go down the path towards criminality. But yes, of course, poverty is an element that we can't ignore, and one of the best ways to address poverty is to make sure everybody has the opportunity of a good education and a good job. That's not something that the Police and Crime Commissioner can influence directly, but certainly if we can make our streets safer, we can encourage inward investment.
And safety on public transport has been highlighted as a serious issue for local people. What are your plans to make people feel safer?
Well, again, a lot of this is a cultural shift we need to address very early. And what I want to do is make sure our police go into schools and talk to children about their behaviour and about what is acceptable behaviour and what isn't. But we also need plenty of support. We need those PCSOs you're talking about. We need police officers to be visible, to be getting on the buses, to be getting on the trains and going with people where they are travelling to show the presence, which massively reduces the risk of somebody getting into trouble.
And as a man from the area, name one thing that makes you proud to be from the West Midlands?
Wow, almost everything. I was born and raised here. You can almost get into the position where you feel that you don't see the good because it's what you take for granted. But the reality is we've got a good, strong work ethic in the West Midlands. We're a proud people. We don't rely on others for our living, if you like. We want to make our own way. And I think the diversity and the mix of cultures that we've got, all living in harmony in different communities, but all across the West Midlands, makes me somewhat proud.
And just a couple more before I let you go. Civic technology helps citizens connect to politicians to have their say in decisions that affect them. As a PCC, how would you utilise these tools to make yourself more accountable?
Well, yeah, it's a big bee in my bonnet, this is, because back in the by-election I had this idea of having an app where people could not only report crime but get updates about what was happening in their area. What I've found is that the current PCC has invested in £25 million, I think it is, in a company from America to tell us what we need in terms of ICT, and none of it will really come to fruit until 2020. The technology is already out there. The ability to do something with it is too. If I'm elected, I'll make sure our officers have these things in their hands, and these apps are available to you and me as soon as possible.
And thanks for the interview. Best of luck. Would you like to take this opportunity to tell why the young people of the West Midlands, why they should vote for you?
Yeah, well, in essence, I am of the West Midlands. I believe in what I do. I believe in public service. And what I really want to make sure people understand is that it is fair to say that the current incumbent has probably not been very visible over the 18 months that he's been in place until the last 2 months with an election coming. I will be available 24/7 to anybody who needs me to look into their needs and their problems, and I'll be their voice in West Midlands policing, not a representative of the police talking to them.
Fantastic, thank you. Thanks. There you go, that was our interview with Les Jones. It's now over to you. Please do get in contact. Follow us on Twitter at Civify using the hashtag OurPCC.